Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at the new 5th rank British premium vehicle, the Centurion Mark V AVRE. So, this is not really a conventional grinding premium, I guess. It's not something that's exceptionally versatile or really that easy to use in most situations. So, again, like I said with the video on the Magak, I need to rate a tank like this a little bit differently. It needs to be rated as a product alongside its effectiveness as an actual vehicle, because you're paying for it. Is it worth your money? And it really does seem to depend on you as a player. If you're a more confident, experienced player, you'll probably have a better time with it than somebody who's new to the game and sees something that looks a bit fun and wants to try it out. It's not very beginner friendly. It's quite punishing if you miss your shots, and on that basis it's just not really a great vehicle to have as a premium. Like a premium vehicle, like the best kind of premium vehicle in my mind, is one that is really, really versatile and one that has a lot of things you can rely on. This one isn't really like that. It works very, very well in certain situations, but very poorly in others, and you're not going to have a consistent time grinding it, whereas you might do in something like the IS-6 that can constantly work. This thing can't, and if you are a good player, you can use it as a mortar. I've seen quite a few people use that to very good effect, but it's not going to get you a lot of RP that way. You're going to get a couple of really satisfying kills, but it's wasted as a premium like that. I'll go into all the details as the video goes on, but following along from the last video's setup, I'll be doing the do's and don'ts, then getting into some gameplay. So let's get into those now. So first, the do's obviously is to use your rangefinder, but use it selectively. And this is a general rule I think I'd apply to most vehicles, but especially for this one, is that you should only rangefind a vehicle if you have time to, and the vehicle you're trying to rangefind isn't aware of you, doesn't know you're there. Because if you get into a habit of rangefinding every shot, you'll use it when you should be shooting, and you might get yourself killed because you haven't fired quickly enough. This as well is relative to your crew. If you do have a good crew, you'll rangefind very quickly and very accurately. If you have a quite low range-finding skill, it will take quite a while and won't really be that accurate. So with a gun like this as well, you need to make sure your shots are hitting, and if you rely on the rangefinder a bit too much, where you don't have an accurate enough skill in range-finding for your crew, it can hinder you quite a lot, especially at ranges. So as you're using this tank, put some crew points into range-finding, as it will really help you out in the long run, but again, make sure to only really use it when you have the time. It's a really, really strong rule to stick by. So next up is be aggressive with your opponents, and I've used opponents there and not just aggressive in general, because this tank doesn't work consistently with an aggressive playstyle. So what I mean is that you can roll around corners, use your armor to deflect a shot, completely decimate a tank, but then a few more might come out from where you've shot that tank from, and then you can't really do anything because your reload's so long. With another vehicle, like the Tortoise, where it would work being aggressive, is that your armor is quite good against most things, and your reload is quite good as well, so you can do that. But with a tank like this, you can't really be super aggressive with it, because you will eventually be stopped. So by being aggressive with your opponents, I'm mainly talking about one-on-ones. Obviously you need to know what you're fighting first. If it's something with heat, if it's something with an APHE shot, you need to know how effective your armor is going to be, but you can really, really put pressure on people. If people see you, they know what you are, they know that they're pretty much going to die if they get hit by you. So if you roll around a corner really quickly, what's generally going to happen is the person that's around the corner is going to fire very quickly without really thinking, because they know if they don't get that shot off, they are definitely dead. So they will fire very quickly and usually very rapidly and not really aim very much. So if you're fighting something with heat, you can roll around a corner very quickly, and it's going to be unlikely that they're going to hit a place that doesn't have AVRE on it. And if it's something with APHE, like the Tiger 2 for example, your turret does have some weak spots like this, but at the same time, if you angle your hull quite a lot, they'll usually shoot it and bounce, or even if you just go around the corner a slight bit, you can even shoot underneath them, like there are things you can do, but generally when you're fighting one person, you need to make them panic, and this is a good tank to make them panic with, because they know if they mess up their first shot, they're going to be dead, and if you know that they know that, you can really play some mind games and make people do things they really shouldn't do. This is a great tank to make people panic, and you can really use it to your advantage. Next is sort of a point that segues from the last one, in that you should peek corners quite hard. The armor on your hull is very effective in that you have the scoop, you have the ERA, and you also have the front plate of the Centurion behind that, so you don't really need to angle that much with it, because the plates on the front will just decimate pretty much anything or any round that hits it, especially heat. So most people know that you're, on a Centurion. They know what the thickness of the hull is, especially like long 88s. They know they can cut through that. So I've had a lot of people shoot at me and bounce, thinking that it's an easy thing to pen. But a lot of people underestimate the plates, the ERA plates, even on APHE. Like, if they hit those, it's like an extra 30mm of penetration lost, and it does all add up. And again, from the last one, people are quite, wary of you. They don't want you to come around that corner, so if you can, angle just a little bit, and they're going to try and stop you before you can come around that corner. And most of the time, it doesn't work out very well for them, because you will eat shots with that front plate. Like, most of the time, it's genuinely really reliable. I've barely had any penetrations from it. I had one penetration from an IS-6 while angling around the corner, but that was it. The rest of them did just bounce off, and it's something that I think is very consistent in how it works. But if that doesn't work, if they know that, you have ERA and they're not shooting you, you can also be a little bit aggressive and maybe make it look like you've made a mistake, in that you can push out a little bit further than maybe you should, generally speaking. Don't put your side on show, though, because there's a little gap between the composite armor and the flat side, which is about like 30-40mm, and people can just cut right through that. If you angle, you don't need to angle very much. You can push out maybe a little bit too much. People will see that and then think, okay, this is a Centurion, I can obviously go right through them, and it will just kind of, it messes with people a little bit. So there are things that you can do, and it's mainly about mind games like this. You need to make them shoot, and you definitely can with this tank, and you definitely can survive with it as well. So first for the don'ts is, don't focus targets at range. I know it's quite a fun thing to do, and I've done it quite a lot as well. I'm not very good at it, mind, but this can be a really big negative in that you will focus somebody quite a lot. It's human nature to, after you've spent resources trying to do something, you're going to keep on doing it until the resources you've already spent have been, worth it. So putting that into terms of the game, once you fire at somebody, you're going to want to keep firing at them so that the first shot that might have missed is worth it ultimately. And it's something I've been very guilty of when I first started playing the tank, and it usually gets me killed because I'm focusing one person, and it allows me to get flanked very, very easily, because with a gun like this, you need to use the adaptive ranged, move the scope up so you can actually see what you're shooting at, and that means that your tunnel vision is, well, very, very tunneled, and you're not really going to be looking away because the range is so precise, and you need to be so accurate with the range, the distance. You're not really going to be paying much attention, and when somebody's really far away and you've got dispersion with your round, you're unlikely to really hit them within about 5 shots if they're over maybe 1.5k away. It's definitely something you can do, and it is incredibly satisfying, but if you want to really use this tank to be most effective, it's not really ultimately worthwhile to fire at things at range excessively. Maybe, if it's an easy shot, like they're quite a big target, they're not moving, then go for it, but if it's something a bit smaller that does keep moving, don't waste your time on it, because there are plenty of other, more effective ways that you can use the tank. Next, which is again a bit of a segue, is don't waste your shots, and obviously that's something that sounds quite obvious that you shouldn't do, but it's something that me and a lot of other people have been guilty of, and especially for this tank, because your reload is so slow, and it's not really a good thing, well, an easy gun to aim. If you see a tank, driving pretty quick away in the distance, and you think, oh, I can fire a shot at that and I might hit it, you're probably not going to. You need to take into account, obviously the range, the velocity, and the timing to hit something on the move like that. And whereas, it would be a really good shot if you did hit it, you then have 20 seconds, or more than that if you don't have a good crew, for the round to reload. And what's happened to me quite a lot, I think about 3 or 4 times I've been killed by doing this. I've seen a target that's, quite far away, maybe on the move, and I think, oh, I could try and hit that. And, I miss. I think, okay, well, he doesn't know I'm here, I'm going to keep driving. And I meet something that then is right in front of me and kills me because I'm not reloaded. So, with this tank, you really need to only fire at things you know you can hit, or within reasonable doubt that you have a good chance of hitting them. Because wasting your shots like that, I mean, sure, you'll get a kill maybe some of the time, but most of the time you're not going to, and most of the time from doing that you're going to get killed by something else. Like, the wait of 20 seconds is so much that it doesn't really work with this tank. With another tank that maybe has half the reload, sure, you can give it a go, and again, that probably has a higher velocity, so you're more likely to hit it. But with something like this, it's pretty much the worst gun for guesstimating shots like that. And it's a hard habit to break, but you will really see the difference in your performance once you do break it. Next is quite a specific thing, but an important one nonetheless, and that's to avoid shooting the front plate of Tiger 2s. I know it is quite tempting because you've got a massive gun and they're a massive target, but generally what you're going to do is you're going to kill the machine gunner, driver, transmission, track and barrel. And sure, they're completely disabled and you can finish them off in the next shot most of the time, but that is then 40 seconds you've spent dispatching one tank in one position, and you could have dispatched them in half the time. The way to take these out is shooting the front of the turret face or shooting the roof. Now, I know that's not an easy shot to make, especially at range, but if you are close quarters and you can hit the turret or the roof, definitely do it, because it will give you a much better chance of one-shotting the tank, and it will disable a lot more in the tank as well. If not that, if they're poking behind a corner, you can even shoot underneath them, and that will most likely one-shot them as well. But just keep it in the back of your mind to not hit the front plate, because it will lose you a lot of time in the long run. Now finally, a good rule to stick to is to back out of situations where you're outnumbered. And this isn't really much of a problem with other tanks, because you'll have a much quicker reload. But with something like this, say if there's two tanks around a corner, you can probably definitely take out or at least disable one of them. Then there's a 20-second gap where the other tank behind that corner can push you, and they're most likely going to get a good shot on you as well, because your reverse gear is good, but your mobility isn't really good enough to get completely out of a situation like that. And in the same regard, this isn't a tank that works incredibly well out on its own. You are going to want to stick with teammates as well. So if you can, in a situation like this, just back out completely of it. I know it's a very defensive thing to do, and a lot of people don't like playing like that, but if you want to stay alive and use this tank as a premium to its most effectiveness in getting RP, you're going to want to stay alive, and that's why you should really, really avoid situations like this. I know saying avoid it isn't really something that you can necessarily completely make sure it happens every time, but at least if you see a situation like that coming, get out of it, or at least put yourself with a teammate who can support you if you need to be in a situation like that. But if you see two tanks, maybe they don't see you, just wait until one of them passes and take the other one out, and then retreat. It's something to at least keep in mind while you're playing it. And obviously, it's not something that you need to constantly have in your mind, oh, there's two tanks, obviously I can't engage them. Just be smart with it. If you think you're in a situation where you'll die after you fire, remove yourself from that situation. Pop smokes, do anything, just get out of there and stay alive, because that's the best way you can make a premium like this work as a premium. Righty, there's the do's and don'ts. So before I get into the game today, I will show you the lineup I've been using for 7.0 Britain. So this is my lineup, and for Britain the 7.0 lineup is actually really, really good. Lots of good backups to this tank. So what I like to take is the Centurion Mark 10, as I think it's just fantastic. You've got good armor, good mobility, good gun, good reload. It's something that works really well at the tier. Hesh is really good at the moment, so this one is really, really effective. I'm a really big fan of it. It's something that you definitely 100% need to have in your lineup as well. To complement that, in certain situations, the Vickers as well is a very, very good option. You do have less armor, less mobility, but a very, very quick reload on the gun, and in some maps, some situations, it can work very, very well. It's a really dangerous one to have, and it's quite good late game as well as a backup. There's lots of tanks around, it does work quite well, and I'm a fan of it. I think you should take it out as well. As well, I would go with the Conway. I think the Conway is very, very good. Kind of underrated as well. I mean, the Sabo, pretty bad, but the armor is okay. The armor on the turret's actually quite good. It's got this extra hidden plate behind the mantlet there, so the armor's actually not bad if you hold down. The Hesh is very, very good as well, and yeah, I would definitely put this in your lineup. For your AA, again, I prefer the Orlican guns, the Crusader Mark II AA, as opposed to the later, higher BR'd one, just because I think it's a lot easier to aim, and it's much better for taking out aircraft, not so much tanks, but at the tier you're mainly, the Bofors AA isn't really going to be super effective against taking out tanks anyway. For your aircraft, I would like to go again with the Spitfire Mark 24. I think it's very, very good. Again, you are going to be seeing some jets at this tier, and it can catch them, especially if they are making maneuvers, they are strafing targets. This one is very, very good, and you do have rockets as well, which again are working very well at the moment. Finally, I'd like to go with the Attacker Mark 1, or FB1, excuse me, as it's actually very, very good for 7.0, especially in ground forces. It's very quick, so if you are seeing props, you can outrun pretty much all of them, and you do have 6 RP3 shots as well, so you can be a really versatile ground attacker and a decent fighter as well. Obviously not amazing, your turning radius isn't really that good, but with the cannon buff and being at 7.0, this is a really, really dangerous plane to have in your lineup. So that's my lineup, and let's go on to the game. I only have one game today as opposed to showing a situation where I did something wrong, because I honestly found that I had my good game early, and after that I was trying to put myself in a bad spot deliberately to show something, and it just went against my playstyle so much that I think it didn't really work, I think. So for this one instance, I'm not going to be showing a game where things went wrong, I'll only be showing a good one. So sorry for that, but again, I don't want to force myself to play badly for the sake of getting a clip, you know, so yeah, sorry about that. But anyway, enough rambling, let's get on to the game. So here's the game today. It's 7.0 on Berlin, and what I'm trying to do is put myself in the situation where I have the most cover and the enemies have the smallest distances to actually engage me. So I'm thinking going to sea, obviously it's the best thing to do. So I'm just trying to go as far out as I can to make sure nothing's flanking, so I can guarantee that I'm going to see everything head on. And I poke around this corner here and I can see the new German armoured car, and I try and get a splash kill on him because I thought it would be funny, but I misjudged the distance between the wall and him and have to finish him off with the MGs, because for some reason the gunner doesn't actually use the gun shield on that tank and he just stands above it for some reason. But anyway, I'm not really complaining in this scenario. So I'm going to push up and get a good spot just so I can cover the point completely, so nothing's really going to get there before I am. And I'm just going to look through these walls here and I can see a Tiger 2, and I want to go for the turret as I said earlier, and there we go, perfect spot just on the bottom of the turret, goes right into the turret itself, takes out all the crew and explodes downwards as well, killing the other 2 crew members. So I'm being a little bit aggressive here and pushing up, and I just catch the glimpse of a Panther, and because he doesn't see me I can use the rangefinder to make sure I don't miss. Being a little bit generous with it because the round does like to hit just below the actual point of the rangefinder sometimes, so I'm just being a little bit careful with it. Again, take him out very, very easily. So I'm being a bit aggressive here, pushing up a bit more than I maybe should, and I'm just trying to scan for anything else, and I can see one of the bushes that you can buy from the store there. And I know there's a tank there obviously, so again, he doesn't see me, use the rangefinder and plop one over and take him out as well. And you can see just the force of that Hesh round there killing the driver through the top of the hull, and god, it's so satisfying. I look over to A because it's completely clear of friendlies and I can see an RU, and I just clip the top of his turret to get the rangefinder, and at 600, so we need to aim quite a bit higher. He hits me and hits the ERA plate, so no damage there. Lob one right over, land right in front of him and take him out as well, and god, that's satisfying. Things like that never get old really. So I'm just going to stay here, wait for the reload and push up to try and take out any of the other tanks coming up from the spawn. So I can see an AA there, but I also saw the movement of something else, and I'm just trying to see what that is there, and it's a Hetzer. Oh, it's very... I don't like this, this is a bit bullying. Oh dear. Just get the range. A little bit too low, but still. Get him with the splash damage, oh, poor thing. So, pushing up with this STA here, and I can see there's a lot of empty space in front of A and B, so I know there's got to be a few tanks over there. A couple of things have been lit up, and medium tank and the heavy that's just died, so I can just see that there is a Panther there. So I get the range finding, and it's 400 again, so I try and get that bang on and fire at him, but like I said earlier, the round does dip just a little bit before the point it says on the rangefinder, and that's something I do selectively remember, so I did actually miss that round, but still. I'm going to push up with the STA-1, so I do have cover if I need it, just in case more enemies show up and I can retreat, and just get the rangefinder again to make sure that I'm not going to miss him a second time and waste 40 seconds or whatever, and get it just bang on there, and try and sneak the kill before anyone else kills him. Again, aim a little bit higher than I probably need to. Get it just right and knock him out as well. Christ, this round is devastating. So I want to push down the road from the spawn at this point, but I do see something out there in the distance, and I think it's the AMX-50 that's been terrorising our team from around the back of the map there. I can just about see him there through the trees, but he does manage to get away just before I can get the right range and the reload, so I do miss out on him there, which is a bit of a shame. But I don't really want to spend time waiting for him to come back out. As much of a satisfying kill as it would be, it's not really something I should really try and do. I try and get a splash kill on him, or at least a splash hit, to show the team where he is, but it didn't really work out. So what I really want to do is push down the spawn road, because again it limits the distance between the things I'm going to be shooting at, and it's again quite short range, so it's the best spot for me really. I can see an Ostwind there, and I do kind of want to get a hit on him, but he does get mostly into cover, showing a sliver of his turret for me, and I don't really think that I can hit him. But this is what I mean, don't take a shot when you don't need to, because I'm pretty much very unlikely to hit him here, and I am by the spawn, so if I do take this shot and try and get a lucky hit, which I miss, I now have 20 odd seconds to then reload if something else is there to then hit, and it does actually waste a lot of time, and in some instances will get you killed. So I can see one tank coming through there, don't quite know what it is. I can see a Panther as well with the AA, and yeah, see, I lose my turret crew because I took a shot I didn't need to. But I can put the smokes out and reverse behind this hill to make sure I'm not going to get killed, and just recoup and wait for him to come to me. So again, hopefully that does show just how you need to take advantage of, well, you need to be aware of your reload when you're fighting things, because like that, I could have killed that guy if I didn't take a shot that I didn't need to there. So just through the fringes of the smoke, I can see another tank there, and it's a Panther F. Again, just get the range finding through the barbed wire, so he probably can't see me through the smoke here. And I'm just trying to actually read it through the barbed wire, which I couldn't actually do. So I'm going to poke out, do another bit of range finding, just guess it's going to be about 200 odd, and bang on, hit him again, right on the bottom of the turret, and wipe his tank out completely. And that's pretty much the game. Not much else happens, just a bit of bullying AA near the end, but that's not really worth the 2 minutes it takes to get there. So there we are. That's a 8-kill game in the AVRE. One of the best ones I had. I did have another 8-kill game, which I think I'll play in the background here. But yeah, this tank can work quite a lot. There are a lot of drawbacks, obviously, and we'll talk about those a little bit here. So the main question is, I guess, is this tank worth your money? Now, for a new player, probably not. It's not the easiest thing to use, like, by any means, really. And as a premium, to have low versatility like this, it's not really very good. It's a great vehicle if you are, experienced with the game, you know what you're doing, you understand the drawbacks of the vehicle, you know how to counter them. But if you're new to the game, you think, oh, this vehicle looks fun, it probably isn't really for you. But maybe just not in realistic. For arcade, actually, this vehicle is really, really fun and really easy. So it pretty much negates all of the drawbacks this vehicle actually has, in that, the gun is hard to aim. And in arcade, you get the lead indicator and you can see where your shot's going to land. And because of how powerful the gun is, you don't necessarily need a good, well-placed hit. You just need to hit in most instances. So for like that, this is actually a good vehicle for arcade. It does actually work quite well there. I've played a few games in it just to warm up sometimes, and I've had a pretty decent time. Like a 5-kill game in this thing in arcade will get you about 7k RP with a premium account and no boosters, and it actually is really fun. So if you've watched all this way and you're looking to get this vehicle, but maybe you're a little bit wary of it, it's good for arcade, and I recommend it for that. But as most of my reviews, well, all of my reviews are for realistic, it will be mainly a review like that for this one. So it's not really a great vehicle for realistic in terms of a premium, just because of its lack of versatility. Your armor is good, and against certain things you can rely on it quite well, but it isn't going to be consistent. There are weak spots that you have. I mean, the bit underneath the ERA on the mantlet, things like the Panther can just cut right through that easily. So if you are facing someone who knows where they're shooting, your armor's not going to work. But most of the time that isn't going to be the case. But that's the key there. Most of the time, it's so the armor's good, but it's not something you can constantly rely on. You can a little bit of range because of how it's harder to hit weak spots like that, but it's not really amazing like that. The gun is something that you can rely on once you get the leading down, because even if you don't kill, you're going to cripple. You know, you're going to take off the tracks, you're going to knock out the barrel most of the time. You know, in rare instances that isn't going to happen, but for most things you fight, you are going to disable them, and, you know, at least you are going to be able to finish them off, but it does take a lot of time, considering your reload. The mobility that you have is not terrible, but not great either. It's a lot more noticeably sluggish than the other Centurions, obviously, because of how the the add-on armor, the extra armor is. So it's not super quick, but you still have a good reverse, and you're not terrible in terms of your maneuverability. So it's a bit of a tricky one. But again, this thing needs to be rated foremost as a product, because it is a product, it's a premium. And it's just a shame that this is the only tier 5 option to buy as a premium for Great Britain, because it's not really very versatile and it's not very easy. You know, putting a talisman on something like the Centurion Mark 10 would be a lot better ultimately. That has like good reliable armor, good reliable reload, good reliable gun now that Hesh is buffed, and it's mobile as well, and like that's probably the better option if you have it. But if you don't, you're left with this as the only thing you can really do, and it's just it's a little bit of a shame, because this is really reserved for effectiveness for the most experienced players. Because, you know, you're a new player, you pick this up, you're probably going to struggle quite a lot with the ranging, and you're probably not going to have a good enough crew to use the rangefinder effectively either. So as a product, it's not great, but as a tank, if you're experienced, it's very good. Mainly as well because of the fun factor you can have with it. Like, you can be the most grumbly, cynical bastard in the world and still have fun hitting things with a giant Hesh round. It will constantly be enjoyable. But for a premium to be good and a premium to be effective, it needs to work very well on every map and every theatre like that. So something like the IS-6, for example, would work very well, because on every map, your armor's going to work, your gun's going to work, your mobility's going to work. But with this, if you're on quite an open map, it's not going to go too well for you because of how, you know, annoying it is to range the shots. I mean, sure, you can get a few kills, you definitely can get a few kills, but you're not going to make stable grinding process, and that's what you're paying 50 euros for. So, is it worth it? Not unless you're a good player, or maybe you want to play it in arcade. For those purposes, it's good. But just on its own, is, you know, if you're a bit kind of you play it a bit more casually and this looks fun, it is fun. But if you're looking to play it in RB and you honestly don't have the experience required to make it work very effectively, then it's probably not for you, and it might be a waste. But still, the one thing that I can't deny, and it will be the same for everyone, is that it is fun. It is a fun vehicle to play. But the thing is, fun isn't worth 50 euros. You can get fun in this game for free. You know, there's other free vehicles that do the same thing this does. So, unless you really want it, you really think you can make it work, and you really think it's going to be something that you can grind the tree out with, go for it. But ultimately, I don't think it's really something you should definitely buy for. Wait for a sale, if it does go on sale. But for the meantime, be cautious when you buy it, because it might not be everything you're expecting. And those things considered, its effectiveness and its effectiveness as a product, I'm going to rate it a 7 out of 10. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. So this video has been a bit sort of rushed. I am quite tight for time today. I need to go paint some skirting board, I think, and then go and do something else. So it's been a little bit rushed. So I do apologise for that. But anyway, I hope you enjoy, and hope you liked the grid return. A lot of people were sad that the grid was gone, but yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it. I should be streaming soon. If not today, I probably will tomorrow or the weekend. So come along for that, because it has been a bit of a while. So again, sorry for that. But anyway, hopefully I'll get a new vehicle review up very soon, and yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it, guys. Again, if you want me to play anything particular from this patch, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.